Hey guys, tonight we are going to retreat into the soft, candlelit world of the London social season. But we're going to focus on a hero who would rather be anywhere else. Imagine a grand ballroom, shimmering with silks, and suffocating under the weight of 1,000 expectations. And in the corner, a man so painfully shy that his only wish is to become one with the wallpaper. This is the story of a courtship conducted not with witty banter or daring glances, but with the silent, secret language of flowers. As you settle in, it's worth remembering that for all its romantic loss, the Regency marriage market was a brutal field of social combat. You probably wouldn't survive the sheer boredom of the small talk, let alone the corset. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a quiet and simple way to support the channel. And if you feel like it, post your location and what time it is where you are. It's always nice to see where everyone is drifting off from. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air in the Duchess of Blackwood's ballroom is thick enough to drink. It's a cloying cocktail of beeswax from 1,000 candles, spilled champagne, and the commingled perfumes of every hopeful debutante in London. From your designated chaperone-approved position near a potted fern that has long given up on life, you watch the scene unfold. It is a churning sea of silk, satin, and starched linen. The sound is a constant, low roar, the murmur of 100 conversations, the sharp clatter of a drop fan, and the relentless, almost tyrannical sewing of the string quartet in the corner. You've been here for 2 hours, and you've already discussed unseasonably warm weather 7 times. It's a marathon of pleasantries, and your smile feels as brittle as spun sugar. Your gaze drifts, as it often does, away from the preening peacocks of the Tun and toward the quiet corners of the room. And that's where you see him, Alistair, the Duke of Wrentham. He is a man who seems to be actively trying to occupy less space than his large frame requires. While other men stand in confident clusters, their laughter booming, Alistair is tucked into an alcove behind a marble bust of some long-dead Roman. He holds a glass of lemonade, gripping it with white-knuckled intensity, as if it's the only thing tethering him to this spot. He has been referred to in hushed, disappointed whispers as the Withering Duke. A man who possesses one of the oldest titles and largest fortunes in England, yet seems to possess none of the social graces to go with them. He isn't unattractive. In fact, if he were to ever stand up straight and lift his chin from his cravat, you suspect he might be quite handsome. But his entire posture is an apology. He's a masterpiece of defensive social architecture, using a potted palm as a shield and the marble bust as a silent and judging companion. You watch as a particularly ambitious mother, her daughter in tow, attempts to breach his fortress of solitude. You see his shoulders tense, a flicker of pure, unadulterated panic in his eyes. Before he gives a short, jerky bow, mutters something that is lost to the din, and takes a sudden, profound interest in a nearby tapestry. The mother and daughter retreat, baffled and vaguely insulted. It's a social train wreck in miniature, and you feel a strange, unexpected pang of sympathy. It's a little like watching a magnificent stag that has accidentally wandered into a London townhouse and doesn't know how to get out. Historians still argue whether the rigid, almost theatrical etiquette of these Regency balls was designed to foster genuine romantic connection, or simply to streamline the process of transactional family alliances. From your vantage point, it certainly feels more like a marketplace than a party. Young women are paraded, their dowries and connections assessed, while men like the Viscount over by the punch bowl loud, braying, and reeking of brandy are considered top-tier prizes. The pressure is immense. A dance card, that little folded piece of paper, is your scorecard for the evening. A full one means success, an empty one is a quiet humiliation. You notice a small, quirky detail about the Duke. While everyone else is fanning themselves against the oppressive heat, he seems perfectly still, almost cold. He hasn't moved from his alcove in at least half an hour. He just stares into his lemonade as if it holds all the secrets of the universe. It's a performance of such profound introversion that it's almost an act of rebellion. In a world that demands constant performance, he simply refuses to take the stage. And in doing so, he has become more conspicuous than if he'd been the life of the party. Every debutante has a story about her failed attempt to engage the Withering Duke. They say he can go an entire evening without speaking a single complete sentence. He is a beautiful, expensive, and utterly silent piece of furniture. And you, a quiet observer who finds more pleasure in the rustle of a book's pages than the rustle of a ball gown, find him utterly, inexplicably fascinating. The following morning, you wake with a peculiar kind of hangover, a social one. Your ears are still ringing with the phantom sound of the string quartet, and your facial muscles ache from maintaining a polite, neutral smile for hours on end. At the breakfast table, your mother is already dissecting the evening with the strategic precision of a general planning a campaign. She recounts who danced with whom, who was wearing a shockingly bold shade of yellow. Most importantly, which eligible gentleman showed even a flicker of interest in your direction. You make non-committal humming sounds while focusing intently on the intricate patterns of the toast rack, a marvel of Georgian engineering you never truly appreciated until this very moment. She mentions the Viscount's name Lord Harrington 3 times, each time with a little more emphasis. You manage to escape her debriefing by mumbling something about a headache, a plausible excuse after the suffocating heat of the ballroom. Your feet, seemingly of their own accord, carry you to your true sanctuary. Your father's library. The moment you close the heavy oak door behind you, the world goes quiet. The frantic energy of the social season fades away, replaced by a deep, comforting silence broken only by the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. This is your haven. The air here smells of old paper, leather polish, and the faint, sweet scent of decaying wood. A perfume you find infinitely more appealing than any French fragrance. Sunlight streams through the tall, arched window, illuminating millions of tiny dust motes as they dance in lazy, swirling patterns. They are the room's quiet inhabitants, its silent, glittering population, and you are their queen. And like the rest of the townhouse, which is subject to your mother's impeccable and rather rigid sense of style, the library is a place of comfortable chaos. Books are not merely displayed here, they live. They are stacked on the floor, leaning against chair legs, and spilling from every available surface. Your father, a man of quiet, scholarly pursuits, has always allowed you free rein of his collection. While other young ladies your age are practicing their watercolors or torturing a pianoforte, you are here, exploring the world through vellum handing. You run your fingers along a row of leather-bound spines, the gold-leaf titles warm and familiar beneath your touch. A treatise on British fungi. The histories of Herodotus. A gentleman's guide to the Grand Tour. There are entire shelves dedicated to dreary theological sermons that you're convinced no one, not even your father, has ever actually read. They are the literary equivalent of boiled vegetables, but they are part of the room's soul nonetheless. You pull out a heavy volume, a book on botany filled with delicate, hand-colored plates of various flowers. This is your real interest. Not the hothouse orchids forced into a natural beauty for a ball, but the wildflowers, the weeds, the quiet, resilient plants that thrive in the shadows. Circulating libraries were becoming quite the fashion in London, providing a steady stream of thrilling, and often scandalous, novels for ladies of leisure. A mainstream historical fact is that this rise in female readership was a source of considerable anxiety for moralists, who feared that impressionable young women would get all sorts of dangerous ideas from reading about passionate heroines and daring elopements. However, find more thrilling drama in the life cycle of a foxglove than in any Gothic romance. You settle into your favorite chair, a monstrous wingback upholstered in worn burgundy leather that has molded itself to the shape of your body over the years. You don't have to worry about maintaining perfect posture or ensuring your skirts are arranged just so. You can curl your feet up under you and lose yourself completely. As you turn the crisp, heavy pages, you uncover a quirky little tidbit, a bookworm, the tiny beetle larva. Has carved a meandering, nonsensical tunnel through the outer margins of the first few pages. Scholars debate whether the term bookworm as a descriptor for a voracious reader was inspired by the insect, or if the two meanings developed entirely separately. You trace the tiny path with your finger, a secret road to nowhere. It feels like a kindred spirit, another creature that literally consumes books for sustenance. As the quiet of the room settles deep into your bones, your thoughts drift, unbidden, back to the ballroom. You think of the loud, overconfident Viscount Harrington, and the way his presence seemed to suck all the air from his immediate vicinity. And then you think of Duke Alistair, the withering Duke, a man who seemed to be actively trying to fade into the background. In a room full of noise, his silence was the most memorable thing. You feel most yourself when you are silent, understand it. Perhaps it wasn't arrogance or disdain that kept him tucked away behind that Roman bust. Perhaps it was a form of self-preservation. In a world that demands you perform, choosing not to is a quiet, and perhaps even powerful, act of defiance. You wonder what he would be like here, in this room, surrounded by silence and stories. The thought is a fleeting, strange one, and you push it away, turning your attention back to the intricate illustration of a night-scented stock. The peace of the library, however, is a fragile thing. The London social season is not a single battle, but a long, grinding war of attrition. Fought over lukewarm tea and tiny, unidentifiable sandwiches. 2 days after your quiet morning spent with the bookworm, your mother informs you that you are both attending a musicale at the home of Lady Danbury. This is presented not as a request, but as an unchangeable fact, like the rising of the sun. You protest, weakly, claiming a lingering headache, but she is having none of it. Lady Danbury's nephew is visiting from Somerset, she says, and is rumored to be in possession of a respectable fortune and a keen interest in hunting. You find it difficult to feign enthusiasm for a man whose primary hobby is chasing foxes across a field. But you know resistance is futile. Lady Danbury's townhouse is less imposing than the Duchess of Blackwood's mansion. But what it lacks in scale, it makes up for in sheer, concentrated fussiness. Every surface is covered in porcelain figurines, gilded clocks, and delicate little tables that seem designed specifically to be knocked over. The air is heavy with the scent of wilting roses and the nervous energy of the young lady, who is currently murdering a piece by Chopin on the pianoforte. You find a seat on a small and comfortable-looking settee and begin the vital work of looking pleasantly interested. You see the loud Viscount Harrington holding court near the fireplace, his voice cutting easily through the poor pianist's efforts. He catches your eye and gives you a broad, confident wink that makes you want to retreat back into the safety of your father's library and never emerge. And then, you see him. Duke Alistair is here. He is standing near the French doors that lead to the garden, half hidden by a heavy velvet curtain, looking for all the world like a man waiting for a firing squad. He looks even more out of place in the bright afternoon light than he did in the shadows of the ballroom. His shoulders are slumped, and he's staring at the intricate pattern on the carpet with the intensity of a man trying to solve a complex mathematical equation. You feel a familiar, sympathetic pang. He is a ghost at the feast, present in body but entirely absent in spirit. The pianist finally finishes her assault on Chopin, to a smattering of polite, if unenthusiastic, applause. Lady Danbury, a woman with the cheerful tyranny of a benevolent dictator, claps her hands together and announces that there is just enough time for a waltz or two before refreshments are served. A collective frisson of excitement and panic ripples through the room. This is the moment of truth. The musicians strike up a tune, and your mother gives you a sharp, meaningful look. Before you can pretend to be deeply fascinated by a porcelain shepherdess, Lady Danbury is bearing down on you, with the Duke of Wrentham somehow in tow. He looks like he has been captured and is being led to the gallows. My dear Laura, Lady Danbury booms, you have not yet had the pleasure of a dance with the Duke, have you? You simply must. There is no escape. To refuse would be a grave insult to your hostess and to the Duke himself. You and he stand opposite one another, a gulf of awkwardness stretching between you. He gives you a small, stiff bow, his eyes fixed firmly on your slippers. You curtsy, your gaze directed at his perfectly polished boots. A mainstream historical fact is that the waltz was, for a long time, considered quite scandalous. The sight of a man holding a woman so closely, their bodies moving in unison, was shocking to a society accustomed to the more formal, hands-off dances of the previous century. As Alistair places a hesitant hand on your waist, you can almost understand why. The proximity feels unnervingly intimate for two people who have never exchanged a single word. The dance begins, if you could call it that. It is less a waltz and more a carefully orchestrated exercise in mutual discomfort. Alistair holds you with the rigid formality of a man holding a priceless vase that he's terrified of dropping. His hand on yours is cool and tense. He doesn't look at you, not once. He stares over your shoulder, his jaw tight with concentration, as he navigates the floor. His movements are clumsy, hesitant. He counts the steps under his breath, a faint 1, 2, 3 that is almost inaudible beneath the music. You nearly trip over a wrinkle in the Aubusson carpet, and he lurches to steady you, a flicker of sheer terror in his eyes. There is no conversation. The silence between you is absolute, a vacuum in the center of the noisy room. Historians still debate the extent to which these public rituals reflected private feelings, or if they were pure performance. In this moment, it feels painfully, terribly real. The quirky tidbit is that many aristocratic families would hire a dance master not just to teach steps, but to drill the youth on the precise etiquette of the ballroom, how to hold one's hands, how to bow, and, crucially, what to say. Alistair's master had clearly failed on that last point. When the music finally, mercifully, comes to an end, it's the most relief you've ever felt. He releases you as if you are hot coal, gives another jerky bow without meeting your eyes. And then, with a mumbled sound that might have been thank you or forgive me, he turns and all but flees through the French doors into the garden. You are left standing in the middle of the floor, your cheeks burning with a mixture of embarrassment and a strange, profound sadness for the man. You feel as though you have just participated in some kind of peculiar, silent torture. You spend the rest of the musicale successfully avoiding both the winking Viscount and your mother's questions, and you leave the moment it is polite to do so, the feeling of the Duke's silent, clumsy panic still lingering in your mind. The next morning, you descend the stairs with a sense of quiet dread. The memory of the waltz, that silent, stumbling disaster, has replayed in your mind throughout the night. You fully expect your mother to have a detailed list of your ballroom failings ready to be discussed over breakfast, starting with your inability to draw the Duke into even the most basic of conversations. To your surprise, however, she is preoccupied with a letter from her sister in Bath and barely seems to register your presence beyond a cursory good morning. You are granted a temporary reprieve, a small mercy for which you are profoundly grateful. You sip your tea and try to focus on the familiar, comforting weight of the silver spoon in your hand, listening to the gentle clink of porcelain and the distant, rhythmic clip-clop of a horse and cart on the cobblestones outside. It is into this quiet domestic scene that the butler, Jennings, appears. He stands at the threshold of the morning room, clearing his throat with a sound like rustling parchment. "Delivery, for you, miss," he announces, his face a perfect mask of polite indifference. He holds a small, neatly wrapped parcel in his white-gloved hands. Your mother looks up from her letter, her interest piqued. A delivery for you is an unusual event. Your correspondence is generally limited to the occasional letter from a school friend or an invitation to yet another tea party. Jennings places the parcel on the small sideboard and retreats as silently as he appeared. The package is modest. It's wrapped in simple brown paper and tied with a length of plain twine. There are no fancy ribbons, no ostentatious wax seals. Your mother immediately assumes it's a book you ordered from Hatchard's. "Another dusty old thing about mosses, I presume?" she asks, her attention already drifting back to the gossip from Bath. You carry the small parcel to the window, the morning light illuminating the simple packaging. As you carefully untie the twine and unfold the paper, a scent hits you first. It's a powerful, heady fragrant, sweet, deeply floral, and slightly spicy. It's a scent that doesn't belong in a stuffy London townhouse. It smells of damp earth and early spring. Inside the paper is not a book, but a small, perfect posy of flowers. They are purple hyacinths. They're tiny, star-shaped blossoms clustered tightly together on thick, green stems. The color is a deep, rich violet, almost the color of twilight. A single, wide, dark green leaf is wrapped around the base of the stems, holding the bouquet together. It's incredibly simple, yet exquisitely beautiful. You stare at them, momentarily stunned. These are not the hothouse roses or exotic orchids that fill the grand floral arrangements at balls. These are humble, almost rustic flowers, the kind you would expect to find in a country garden. You search the paper for a card, a note, any indication of who might have sent them. There is nothing, just the flowers. "Well, who are they from?" your mother asks, now fully invested. You turn the paper over and over, shaking it gently as if a card might magically fall out. "I don't know," you say, a genuine confusion in your voice. "There's no card." "No card? How peculiar. It must be from Lord Harrington," she declares with absolute certainty. It's a bold gesture, sending a gift to the house. A little forward, perhaps, but it shows keen interest. He's trying to be mysterious. You look at the delicate, unassuming bouquet. It feels nothing like the winking, booming Viscount. A gesture from him would surely be a gaudy, overflowing basket of roses, accompanied by a card filled with flowery, insincere compliments. This is quiet, it's thoughtful. A mainstream historical fact is that London's insatiable demand for fresh flowers was supplied by a complex network of market gardens in the surrounding countryside. With Covent Garden serving as the vibrant, chaotic heart of the trade, getting a specific flower, especially one with a short blooming season, delivered fresh to a Mayfair home required considerable effort and expense. You can't shake the feeling that this anonymous gift is a message. But what is it saying? And who is the sender? Historians still argue whether the sending of anonymous gifts in the Regency era was a romantic, playful act or a serious breach of etiquette that could damage a young lady's reputation. It walked a fine line between charming mystery and improper familiarity. You find a small, delicate glass vase and fill it with water, placing the hyacinths on the mantelpiece in the library, your sanctuary. Their deep purple color seems to absorb the quiet light of the room, and their fragrance slowly begins to fill the air, overpowering the familiar scent of old books and leather. A quirky tidbit of the time is that florists, or nosegay women as they were often called, would use different wrappings to signal a message of their own. A bit of lace for love, a dark ribbon for sorrow. Your simple brown paper and twine, however, offer no such clues. Throughout the day, you find your eyes drifting to the small cluster of purple blossoms. The awkwardness of the previous evening's waltz fades, replaced by a gentle, persistent curiosity. You think of the Duke, his silent panic, his clumsy retreat. Could it be possible? Could a man who cannot manage a simple sentence of small talk be capable of such a quiet, elegant gesture? It seems unlikely, and yet, the gesture feels like him. It's a communication without words, a statement made in color and scent instead of sound. The flowers are a question mark, sitting in a vase on your mantelpiece, and you find yourself, for the first time, wanting to know the answer. Their scent, which was at first a pleasant, intriguing whisper, has deepened into a full-blown declaration, a fragrant occupation of your quiet space. You find it impossible to concentrate. You pick up your familiar book on British fungi, but the detailed illustrations of toadstools and mycorrhizal networks seem dull, lifeless. The mystery of the flowers is a pleasant but persistent hum in the back of your mind, a puzzle box you can't help but turn over and over again. Your mother's confident assertion that they came from the Viscount feels deeply, fundamentally wrong. A man like that communicates with booming laughter and ostentatious displays of wealth, not with the quiet poetry of a simple, anonymous gift. You need a distraction, but your usual distractions have lost their power. You feel a restless energy and need to do something. You abandon the fungi and begin to wander the library's perimeter, your fingers trailing along the spines of books you haven't looked at in years. You move past the shelves of history and philosophy, past the poetry, and into the dusty, neglected corner that your father jokingly calls the land of lost cousins. This is where the oddities live: books on obscure heraldry, dense treatises on agricultural drainage, and a frankly alarming number of religious sermons from the 17th century that seem to be composed entirely of fury and commas. It's the literary equivalent of a cluttered attic, full of things too historically significant to throw away but too boring for anyone to actually read. Your fingers, coated in a fine layer of dust, stop on a small, unassuming volume. It has been squeezed between a hulking tome on Saxon law and a slim pamphlet on the moral dangers of card games. It is bound in faded green leather, now the color of moss, and the spine is entirely blank. There is no title, no author, no gilded lettering to announce its purpose. It is a secret, tucked away in plain sight. You ease it from its tight prison. It's surprisingly light. The cover is soft and worn, the corners rounded from years of handling, though you have never once laid eyes on it before. You settle into your wingback chair, the hyacinths perfuming the air beside you, and open the cover. The title page, in an elegant, slightly faded copperplate script, reads, "The Silent Alphabet, a compendium of floral language for the edification of the sentimental mind." It's a book on florography, the language of flowers. You've heard of the concept, of course. It's a whimsical, romantic notion, something you might read about in a flighty ladies' magazine. You'd never considered it a serious field of study. A mainstream historical fact is that while we often associate the language of flowers with the Victorians, the concept was introduced to England much earlier. Lady Mary Wortley Montagu's letters from the Ottoman court in the early 1700s describe the Turkish custom of selam, a secret language using objects including flowers to send complex messages. This sparked a fascination that simmered for a century before it exploded into a full-blown craze. You turn the pages, your initial academic curiosity blossoming into genuine fascination. This is not a botany book, it's a dictionary. The entries are alphabetical. Each one features a delicate, hand-tinted engraving of a flower, followed by its assigned meaning, and often a short, sentimental poem. The definitions are specific, sometimes strangely so. A red carnation means "my heart aches for you," while a striped carnation means "no, I cannot be with you," or refusal. It's a system of beautiful, passive-aggressive communication. You can't help but chuckle. The quirky tidbit you discover is that basil, a common kitchen herb, means hatred. You make a mental note to check your mother's herb garden later. It's a wonderfully silly, yet deeply serious little book. Modern scholars often debate whether these flower dictionaries were used as serious, practical guides for secret communication between clandestine lovers, or were simply a charming parlor amusement. A way to add a layer of sentimental meaning to a simple gift. Looking at the detailed, earnest entries in the book before you, it feels like it could be both. It is at once a game and a code, a way to say things that the rigid etiquette of society would never allow to be spoken aloud. And that's when the thought strikes you, a jolt of understanding so sharp and clear it's almost audible. The hyacinths. The anonymous, beautiful, fragrant hyacinths sitting on your mantelpiece. They weren't just a gift, they were a word. A sentence, a message sent by someone who, perhaps, found spoken words difficult to manage. Your heart is beating a little faster. The dusty, forgotten book in your hands has transformed. It is no longer a historical curiosity, it is a Rosetta Stone. It is the key to a lock you didn't even know existed until yesterday. The restless energy you felt is gone, replaced by a focused, thrumming excitement. The withering duke, the man of profound and painful silence, the man whose clumsy dance was an agony of unspoken apology. Could he have found a different way to speak? You take a deep, calming breath, a scent of hyacinths filling your lungs. Your hands, which are now trembling ever so slightly, turn the delicate, fertile pages of the book, past foxglove insincerity and geranium stupidity. Searching for the letter H. The pages of the little green book are as thin and delicate as dried leaves. They make a crisp, dry whisper as you turn them, releasing a faint scent of vanilla and dust, the ghost of a long-dead reader. The book is organized alphabetically, but in a loose, more spiritual sense of the word. You find iris tucked stubbornly after jasmine, for reasons known only to the original printer. Your fingers, smudged with the dust of forgotten knowledge, fly past hydrangea boaster, coldness of heart. And you can't help but picture the booming Viscount Harrington. Someone really ought to send him a large bouquet of them. You pass hollyhock ambition, and honeysuckle bonds of love, your anticipation growing with every rustle of the page. You find it. The entry is nestled between houseleek and heather. Hyacinths. The engraving is exquisite. It shows a single stalk, its bell-shaped flowers rendered with such delicate precision that you can almost feel their waxy texture. Below the image, the text begins. Your eyes scan the entry, your breath held tight in your chest. The book explains the origin of the flower first, the quirky tidbit you never knew. It comes from the Greek myth of Hyacinthus, a beautiful Spartan prince loved by the god Apollo. During a friendly game of discus, a jealous Zephyrus, the west wind, blew the discus off course, striking and killing the young mortal. From his spilled blood, Apollo, in his grief, created the flower that would bear his beloved's name. It is a flower, therefore, born of tragic accident and deep regret. Your eyes move to the sign meanings, the part that truly matters. There are several, depending on the color. Hyacinth general games and sports, play. Your heart sinks. Games and sports. Was this some kind of cruel joke? A mockery of your clumsy performance on the dance floor? For a fleeting moment, you feel a hot flush of embarrassment. But then you read the next line. Hyacinth purple, please forgive me, sorrow, sincerity. There it is. 3 simple words that change everything. Please, forgive me. It is a plea, a quiet, heartfelt admission of fault. The flowers on your mantelpiece are not a gift, they are an apology. They are the words the Duke could not force past his lips as he fled into the garden, the sentiment his panicked mind could not articulate in the stifling heat of the musicale. The waltz, which had replayed in your mind as a moment of shared, public humiliation, is suddenly recast in a different light. His rigid posture wasn't disdain, it was terror. His silence wasn't arrogance. It was an inability to speak. The clumsy steps, the averted eyes, the frantic escape, it was all a symptom of his profound shyness, and he was now, and only way he knew how, begging for your pardon. A wave of something warm and gentle washes over you, erasing the last vestiges of your own embarrassment. All you feel now is a profound and aching empathy. To be so trapped in your own silence that you must rely on the language of flowers to apologize for a simple dance, it is a lonely, and strangely beautiful, way to exist. You look from the page to the flowers, and back again. They seem different now. They are no longer just a pretty decoration. They are a tangible piece of his voice, a silent, fragrant confession. A mainstream historical fact is that London in this era had a remarkably efficient local postal system, the penny post, established in the late 17th century. It allowed for the delivery of letters and small parcels anywhere within the city for the modest sum of 1 penny. An anonymous sender could easily pay a messenger a few coins to purchase the flowers and have them delivered from a Covent Garden stall to your doorstep. A ghost in the city's complex circulatory system, it was the perfect mechanism for a man who wished to communicate without being seen. You read the entry in the little green book one more time. Please forgive me, sorrow, sincerity. It's so much more than what a spoken apology could ever convey. It's vulnerable, it's thoughtful, it required effort, planning, and a knowledge of this strange, silent alphabet that you, by sheer chance, have stumbled upon. Historians still argue whether these floral messages were ever truly misunderstood, creating a comedy of errors where a declaration of love was mistaken for an insult. It is a system fraught with potential for misinterpretation, relying entirely on both sender and receiver possessing the same secret dictionary. The fact that you found this book, that you can understand him, feels like a small, private miracle. You touch one of the delicate purple blossoms on the mantelpiece. It is cool and soft. For the first time, you feel as though you have met the real Duke of Wrentham, and you met him here, in the quiet of the library, through the silent, sincere apology of a flower. The apology hangs in the air, as real and present as the scent of the hyacinths. It is a debt that has been paid, a social clumsiness that has been gracefully, silently, amended. But it leaves you with a new, and far more delicate, problem. What does one do with an apology? To ignore it would be a coldness, a cruelty you do not feel. It would be like leaving a proffered hand hanging in the air, and shaken. But to acknowledge it openly is impossible. The entire beauty of the gesture, its power, lies in its secrecy. To speak of it would be to break the spell, to drag this fragile, silent conversation out into the clumsy, noisy world of spoken words. You cannot simply thank him. You must reply in kind, you must answer him in his own language. The little green book, which had been a curiosity and then a key, now becomes your lexicon. You spend the rest of the morning with it, the weight of it in your lap, a comforting, solid thing. The task ahead requires a surgeon's precision. You are composing your first word to him, and it must be perfect. It must convey acceptance, but not eagerness. It must show curiosity, but not forwardness. It must be a gentle question, not a bold declaration. You are walking a tightrope of etiquette, woven from petals and stems. You flip through the pages, considering the candidates. A white rose? No, the book defines it as a heart that knows no love, which is entirely the wrong message. A sprig of mint? The book calls it virtue, which feels entirely to self-congratulatory. You linger for a moment on Sweet William, which means gallantry. It's tempting, a quiet compliment to his unconventional method of apology, but it feels too direct, too much like praise. You are not trying to flatter him, you are trying to open a door, just a crack, to see if he will push it further. You need something softer, more questioning. You find it, under the letter M. Meadowsweet. The engraving shows a delicate, feathery plume of creamy white flowers. It's a wildflower, not a hothouse bloom. It is humble, unassuming. You read the entry, and you know, with a certainty that settles deep in your bones, that this is the one. The book offers a surprisingly poetic definition. Meadowsweet, a gentle inquiry, polite curiosity, usefulness. It is perfect. It is a noncommittal signal of interest. It says, simply and without embellishment, I understood your message, and I am curious. It is a polite knock on a closed door. Now comes the practical matter of acquiring it. Meadowsweet is not something one can simply request from a Mayfair florist. It is a creature of damp fields and riverbanks, not of curated London gardens. A mainstream historical fact is that even wealthy London townhouses often had small rear gardens, but these were typically for growing essential kitchen herbs or perhaps a few hardy rose bushes, not for cultivating wildflowers. You remember, however, a small, slightly wild patch at the very back of your own small garden, a place where the gardener's influence wanes and nature is allowed a little more freedom. You find your old gardening gloves and a small pair of shears and make your way outside. There in the back garden is cool and damp, smelling of wet earth and boxwood hedges. Historians still debate how self-sufficient these urban gardens were, whether they were truly functional or more for show. Yours is a bit of both. Your mother's perfect roses climb the brick walls, but here, in the shade of the old mulberry tree, things are less orderly. And there it is, a small, resilient cluster of meadowsweet, its frothy white flowers looking like a puff of clotted cream against the dark green leaves. The quirky tidbit about meadowsweet is that for centuries before the invention of potpourri, it was known as a strewing herb. People would scatter it across the floors of their homes to cover unpleasant smells. Its sweet, almond-like scent perfuming the air. You cut a single, perfect sprig. The next step is the most difficult, the delivery. You cannot use Jennings. You cannot use any of your family's staff. The message must arrive as his did, a ghost carried on the city's currents. You wrap the single stem of meadowsweet in a small piece of brown paper, just as the hyacinths were, and tie it with the same simple twine. You take a shilling from your pin money box. You wait by the front window, peering through the lace curtains until you see what you're looking for, a young boy, no more than 10, darting through the street traffic. A street urchin, a messenger for hire, part of the city's vast, unofficial network of communication. You slip out the front door, your heart thumping a nervous rhythm against your ribs. You call to him, and he approaches, his eyes wary but sharp. You show him the coin and the small parcel. You give him the address of the Duke of Wrentham's residence, a grand, imposing house on Grosvenor Square that you have only ever seen from the outside. You make him repeat it twice. Just give it to the footman at the door. You instruct, your voice barely a whisper. Say it's a delivery. Nothing more. He nods, snatches the coin and the parcel, and disappears into the London throng as quickly as he appeared. You are left on your doorstep, the mission accomplished. You have sent your reply. You have spoken your first word in this silent, fragrant conversation. All you can do is return to the quiet of your library and wait. The shilling is spent, the message is sent. You have cast a single, fragile petal onto the vast, churning currents of London. And now there is nothing to do but wait. The library, which has always been your sanctuary, now feels like a cage. You pace its length, the worn Persian carpet unable to muffle the restless energy that thrums through you. You pick up the little green book, but its secrets are already known to you. You try to read a chapter of a novel, but the words blur into meaningless shapes on the page. Every creak of the floorboards in the hall, every distant shout from the street, sounds like the arrival of a reply. But no reply comes. The silence stretches, taut and thin. To quiet your mind, you begin to imagine the journey of your small, humble sprig of meadowsweet. You picture the urchin, a small, quick shadow, weaving through the chaos of carriages and pedestrians. You see him arriving at the grand, stone facade of Wrentham House on Grosvenor Square. A place of intimidating symmetry and polished brass. You imagine the liveried footman, the man whose entire job is to be unimpressed, taking the grubby little parcel with a flicker of disdain before closing the heavy door, shutting the world out. And then your imagination follows the flower inside. Where does a man like Duke Alistair spend his days? You cannot picture him in the grand, formal reception rooms, all gilt and damask. You cannot see him in a study, surrounded by ledgers and estate papers. The thought feels wrong. A man who speaks in flowers must have a place where things grow. And so, in your mind, you build him a sanctuary. It is not a dusty library of dead words, but a vibrant, living one, a greenhouse. A grand conservatory, built of glass and slender iron ribs, bolted onto the back of the imposing stone house like a crystal cocoon. A mainstream historical fact of the era was the growing obsession among the wealthy with horticulture and botany. As the British Empire expanded, so did the desire to collect and cultivate exotic plants from around the world. Private conservatories became fashionable status symbols, glass palaces designed to house treasures from distant, warmer climates. You picture Alistair's not as a symbol of status, but as a place of refuge. The air inside is warm and humid, thick with the scent of damp earth, night-blooming jasmine, and the sharp, clean smell of citrus leaves. Filtered through the glass panes, dapples the stone floor. It is a world of controlled, quiet life. You imagine the footman finding him there, among his silent companions. He is tending to an orchid, its blossoms a cascade of impossible, spotted beauty. Historians still debate whether these horticultural pursuits were driven by a genuine scientific spirit or were merely a form of escapism. For an aristocracy increasingly burdened by rigid social codes, for the duke you have constructed in your mind, it is entirely the latter. This is his fortress of solitude, the only place he can breathe. You picture the footman presenting your small, slightly crumpled brown paper parcel on a silver tray. A piece of street-level grime introduced into this pristine, curated world. You see the duke's surprise, the confusion in his eyes as he takes the package. You watch, in your mind's eye, as he carefully unties the twine and unfolds the paper. And you see the moment of recognition as he lays eyes on the single sprig of meadowsweet. A quirky tidbit of horticulture is the immense prestige associated with fruiting a pineapple in England. It required incredible expense and expertise, and hostesses would often rent one for a party simply as a centerpiece. You imagine Alistair's greenhouse is full of such difficult, precious things. And yet, he is not looking at them, he is looking at your simple wildflower, a weed. You imagine a slow, profound stillness coming over him. The tension you saw in his shoulders at the ball melts away. He would know, instantly. A man who speaks this language would be fluent in its grammar. Meadowsweet, a gentle inquiry. He would understand that you had not been offended. He would understand that you had heard his apology and, more than that you had understood it. You picture him bringing the feathery blossom to his nose, inhaling its faint, almond scent. And then, you allow yourself to imagine a small, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. It is not a broad, social smile, but a quiet, private expression of relief, of connection, of being, for the first time, truly understood. The scene you have built in your mind is so vivid, so complete, that it feels like a memory. But it is only a fantasy, a story you have told yourself to fill the silence. You are still in your library. The grandfather clock in the corner ticks on, each second a small, sharp reminder of the passing time. The waiting is not over. But you feel a sense of calm settle over you. You have sent your message. And you have allowed yourself to believe, just for a moment, that it has been received. The days that follow your silent reply stretch into a week, and the hopeful energy that had filled the library slowly drains away, leaving a familiar, quiet residue of resignation. The sprig of meadowsweet might as well have been a stone dropped into a bottomless well. There has been no echo, no splash, nothing. Your mother's social campaign, however, has not been idle. You are swept up in a relentless tide of afternoon teas, morning calls, and evening card parties. The silent, fragrant conversation begins to feel like a dream, a brief, pleasant hallucination in the face of the loud, grinding reality of the London season. The architect of this reality, it becomes increasingly clear, is Lord Harrington. The winking Viscount has decided to make you his next project. He is not a subtle man, his courtship is not a gentle inquiry, it is a full-scale military invasion. He begins to appear wherever you are, his presence announced by a booming laugh that seems to precede him by several seconds. He is a man who takes up an enormous amount of space, both physically and audibly. The campaign begins in earnest during the fashionable promenade or in Hyde Park. A mainstream historical fact is that between the hours of 5 and 7, the carriageway along the Serpentine became a stage. It was a slow, circular parade of the wealthy and well-connected, a place to display your new horses, your new carriage, your new bonnet, and, if you were a mother like yours, your eligible daughter. You are seated beside your mother in your family's open landau, the pace of the traffic so slow it's almost stationary. You are nodding and smiling at passing acquaintances, a tedious but necessary performance. Lord Harrington is there, reigning in his magnificent black stallion directly beside your carriage. Ladies, he booms, sweeping a ridiculously plumed hat from his head. A vision of loveliness to brighten this dreary afternoon. Your mother positively beams, her approval radiating from her like heat from a stove. The Viscount proceeds to engage in a conversation that is less a dialogue and more a monologue about his horse's pedigree, his tailor's genius, and a hunting anecdote that involves a great deal of shouting. You sit in silence, a captive audience to his one-man show, feeling the eyes of every other carriage on you. This public display is just the beginning. The next day, an enormous bouquet of flowers arrives. It is a monstrous, ostentatious explosion of crimson peonies, so large the footman can barely carry it. The book in your library, you recall, defines the peony as bashfulness or shame, a layer of irony so thick it's almost funny. But you know the Viscount has no knowledge of such subtleties. To him, the flowers are not a message, they are a statement of wealth and intent, a floral battering ram. Your mother has them placed in a large urn in the center of the entrance hall, where no visitor can possibly miss them. The pressure intensifies. At a ball a few nights later, he claims the first 2 dances, holding you a little too tightly and steering you around the floor with a proprietary air that makes your skin crawl. He compliments your dress, your hair, your eyes, but his words feel like memorized lines, hollow and impersonal. He is not speaking to you, he is performing the act of courting you. Historians still debate how much genuine choice aristocratic women had in their marriages. While the age of forced unions was largely over, the immense pressure from family and society to accept a good match, meaning a wealthy and titled one, was a powerful, almost irresistible force. You can feel that force closing in on you. Your mother is constantly singing his praises. He is so full of life, she says, and his estate in Kent is said to be magnificent. The quirky tidbit of the era was the rise of the dandy, men who placed extreme importance on their physical appearance, refined language, and leisurely hobbies. Lord Harrington is a different breed. He is a Buck or a Corinthian, prizing sporting prowess and a certain loud, boisterous masculinity. He is all action and no thought, a stark contrast to the silent, thoughtful Duke. And the Duke is nowhere to be seen. He seems to have vanished from the social circuit entirely. You scan every ballroom and drawing room, but the quiet corners where he once lurked are empty. You begin to wonder if you imagined the whole thing. Perhaps the hyacinths were a mistake, a delivery meant for someone else. Perhaps your sprig of meadowsweet never even reached him, or if it did, he simply discarded it, a meaningless weed from a strange, forward girl. The Viscount's public courtship creates a narrative. The whispers of the ton, the gossip over tea, all begin to link your names. You are no longer Alara, you are the young lady being pursued by Lord Harrington. It is an assumption, a foregone conclusion. And the most frightening part is that you can see no way out. To refuse such a public, ardent, and in the eyes of the world perfectly suitable suitor would be a scandal. It would be seen as an act of willful, inexplicable foolishness. You feel like a ship being slowly but surely guided into a harbor you have no desire to enter, and the Viscount is the loud, relentless tugboat pushing you along. The pressure from the Viscount reaches its apex at a garden party hosted by the Earl of Ashworth. It's a sweltering afternoon, and the air is thick with the scent of roses and the sound of forced merriment. Lord Harrington has attached himself to your side like a burr, parading you through the assembled guests and introducing you with a possessive tone that makes you feel less like a person and more like a prize he has recently acquired. He has just cornered you near a wilting rhododendron bush, recounting a story about a horse race in excruciating detail, when another delivery arrives at your home. Of course, are not there to see it. You are trapped, smiling a smile that feels like a crack in a porcelain mask, nodding as the Viscount's voice drones on. When you finally return home, exhausted and frayed, Jennings informs you that a small parcel arrived. He says it with the same impassive expression as always, but you detect, or perhaps only imagine, a faint glimmer of curiosity in his eyes. He has noticed the pattern. Your heart, which had been a dull, leaden thing all afternoon, gives a hopeful, fluttering leap. You take the package from the hall table and retreat to the library, closing the door behind you with a quiet click that sounds like a sigh of relief. This time, you don't hesitate. Your fingers, nimble and sure, undo the familiar twine. The bouquet within is different from the first. It is not a simple, uniform cluster of a single flower. It is a composition, a small, carefully arranged collection of different colors and textures. It is a sentence, not just a word. At its heart is a spray of yellow hyacinths, their color a startling, almost aggressive shade of lemon. Tucked amongst them, delicate and pure, are several drooping heads of snowdrops, their white petals looking as fragile as spun glass. The stems of the entire posy are wrapped in a single, trailing strand of dark green ivy. It is a strange, beautiful, and deeply intentional arrangement. You place the bouquet gently on the table next to your wingback chair and retrieve the little green book. Its faded cover feels like the hand of a trusted friend. You turn the pages, your pulse a steady, thrumming beat in your ears. You look for the most prominent flower, the one that immediately caught your eye. Hyacinth yellow and jealousy. The word hits you with the force of a physical blow. Jealousy. He knows. He has been watching from whatever shadows he now inhabits. He has seen the Viscount's public siege, the proprietary hand on your elbow, the ridiculous, oversized bouquet of peonies. He has seen the story the world is writing for you, and he is, in his own silent way, screaming a protest. It is a shocking, thrilling, and terrifying revelation. You are not just a passing acquaintance he once danced with awkwardly. You are someone whose attention he is afraid of losing. The emotion is so raw, so potent, it feels almost improper to have it delivered to your door wrapped in brown paper. Your hands are trembling slightly as you search for the next flower. Snowdrop. The engraving shows the delicate, bell-like flower, a symbol of the very first breath of spring. A quirky tidbit of folklore claimed that bringing a single snowdrop into the house was a portent of death, an unlucky omen. To send a whole cluster was either an act of ignorance or one of bold defiance against superstition. You read the definition. Snowdrop, a hope, consolation. Hope? The perfect, gentle antidote to the sting of jealousy. It is not an angry, possessive jealousy, but a pining, sorrowful one. He is not demanding, he is hoping. It's a quiet plea, a reassurance that despite the loud, confident rival who now commands your public life, he has not given up. He is still there, somewhere, waiting for a sign. A mainstream historical fact is that sourcing flowers like snowdrops long after their natural blooming season in late winter would have been incredibly difficult. It would require a dedicated hothouse and a highly skilled gardener. A testament to a level of effort and expense that far surpassed the Viscount's simple purchase of whatever was most abundant at the market. You look up the meaning of the dark green vine that binds the message together. Ivy fidelity, wedded love, constancy. It is the foundation of the entire statement. His jealousy is underpinned by a steadfast hope, which is in turn wrapped in a promise of unwavering loyalty. Scholars debate whether these complex bouquets, or tussy-mussies, were truly read as sentences, with each flower a distinct word in a grammatical sequence. But looking at the arrangement in your hands, it feels undeniably like a coherent thought. I am jealous, but I have hope in my fidelity to you. You lean back in your chair, the little book resting in your lap, and simply breathe. The silence of the library is no longer empty, it is filled with his voice. The withering Duke, the man the world dismissed as a silent, socially inept recluse, is capable of more emotional nuance and depth in a handful of flowers than the Viscount is in 1,000 booming war. He has not abandoned you. He has been watching, feeling, and now, he has reached out across the chasm of silence and society to tell you so. This is no longer a game. It is a conversation. It is a secret, a fragile, beautiful secret that you and he now share, a silent rebellion blooming in the heart of a noisy, oblivious world. The complex message of the bouquet sits on your dressing table, a silent, fragrant testament to the Duke's hidden feelings. You fall asleep with the scent of jealousy and hope in the air and wake with a sense of quiet purpose. The game has changed. This is no longer a passive reception of messages. You must find a way to navigate the treacherous waters of the Viscount's public courtship while keeping the secret channel open. But how? You cannot simply ignore Lord Harrington. He is a man who does not take kindly to being ignored. You feel as though you are trying to solve a delicate puzzle in the middle of a thunderstorm. Your dilemma is given a voice and a face the very next afternoon. The Viscount calls upon you. It is a formal, proper visit. He is ushered into the drawing room where you and your mother are engaged in the soul-destroying task of mending linen. He is impeccably dressed, his cravat a marvel of starched complexity, and he smells powerfully of sandalwood and self-assurance. He makes pleasant, booming small talk with your mother for precisely 15 minutes, the socially mandated minimum. He turns to you. Miss Ilara, he says, his voice taking on a tone of magnanimous generosity. I was hoping you might do me the honor of showing me your mother's famous rose garden. It is not a request. It is a command, wrapped in the thinnest veneer of politeness. Your mother's eyes light up with an almost blinding incandescence. A private walk in the garden is a significant step, a clear sign of impending declaration. To refuse would be unthinkable. You place your mending in its wicker basket and lead the way through the French doors, your back straight, your heart a cold, heavy stone in your chest. The garden path is narrow, forcing you to walk closer to him than you would like. The air is warm, the scent of your mother's roses cloying and sweet. He is, for a moment, silent, and you begin to brace yourself. A quirky tidbit of landscape design from the period was the creation of the wilderness, a deliberately less manicured part of the garden, often with winding paths and secluded benches. Designed to encourage private contemplation and conversation, it is toward just such a bench, tucked away in an alcove of high boxwood hedges, that he steers you. He does not ask you to sit. He stops before the bench and turns to you, adopting a stance that feels rehearsed, like an actor about to deliver a crucial soliloquy. Miss Ilara, he begins, and you have the distinct impression he is addressing not you, but an invisible audience of his ancestors. We have been acquainted now for some weeks. My intentions, I believe, have been clear. My fortune is considerable. My title is sound. Our estates in Kent share a border, a fact which I am sure has not escaped your father's notice. He pauses, as if allowing you time to be impressed by this litany of his own virtues. You are a fine woman, he continues, looking at you with the appraising eye of a man judging horseflesh. Suitably quiet, and you will make a fine viscountess. I am prepared to make you an offer of marriage. There it is. Not a question born of passion, not a plea from a loving heart, but a business proposal, a merger and acquisition. A mainstream historical fact is that proposals among the aristocracy were often preceded by intense negotiations between the family's solicitors. The marriage settlement, detailing the bride's dowry and the income she would be guaranteed as a widow, was the true bedrock of the union. Love was a fortunate, but entirely optional, extra. You are silent. The entire world seems to have gone silent around you. The buzz of the bees, the rustle of the leaves, it has all faded away. In your mind, you see the Duke's flowers. Yellow hyacinths, snowdrops, ivy, jealousy, hope, fidelity. It is a beautiful, fragile promise from a man you have never truly spoken to. And here, in front of you, is Lord Harrington. He is real, he is present, he is offering you a future that is solid, secure, and approved of by everyone in your world. Historians still argue about the emotional reality of these moments. When faced with such a socially perfect offer, did a young woman's heart have any say in the matter, or was the acceptance a foregone conclusion, a final, resigned step in a dance that had begun weeks before? The Viscount misinterprets your silence as maidenly hesitation. There, he says, patting your arm in a clumsy, condescending gesture. There is no need to be overwrought. It is the logical and most sensible outcome. We shall be the envy of the town. And this is the moment of your misunderstanding. It is not a misreading of a flower, but a misreading of your own life. The Duke's messages, which had seemed so profound in the quiet of your library, now feel like a childish fantasy. He is a ghost, a shy, ineffectual man who hides in greenhouses and communicates in riddles. He has not rescued you from this moment. He is not here. Lord Harrington is. The future he offers is a cage, perhaps, but it is a real, tangible, and richly gilded one. What is the alternative? A life spent waiting for a man who may never find the courage to even speak your name aloud. The hope promised by the snowdrops begins to feel like a foolish dream. The fidelity of the ivy feels like a chain to a man who does not exist outside of his floral pronouncements. You look at the Viscount, at his confident, expectant face. Your mother is watching from the drawing room window. The entire world is watching. To say no is not just to refuse him, it is to refuse your duty, your future, your place in the world. Your secret conversation feels like a fragile, wilting thing in the face of this loud and yielding reality. You take a breath. You open your mouth to accept. The word is there, a ghost on your tongue, ready to be given form and sound. Yes, it is the logical word, the sensible word, the word that will please your mother and secure your future. You have drawn the breath to speak it. The Viscount's face wears an expression of smug satisfaction. He already knows what you will say. The world holds its breath. And then, the sound of a frantic, crunching footstep on the gravel path breaks the spell. Your family's butler, a man who moves through the world with the silent and flappable grace of a glacier, is half running towards you. His powdered hair is slightly askew. There is a sheen of perspiration on his brow. In his 60 years of life, you suspect Jennings has never run anywhere. The sight is so profoundly shocking that the word on your lips dissolves into nothing. Lord Harrington turns, his face a thundercloud of irritation at this egregious breach of domestic protocol. What is the meaning of this? He barks. Jennings ignores him. His eyes are fixed on you, and they hold an expression of startling urgency. He carries a small, brown paper-wrapped parcel. Another one. My sincerest apologies for the interruption, my lord, he says, his voice strained from his undignified haste. The messenger insisted. He said it was a matter of the most extreme, immediate importance. A mainstream historical fact is that the great houses of London maintain their own staff of footmen and runners precisely for these moments. A trusted messenger, paid for speed and discretion, could cross the city far faster than a public service, making near real-time communication possible for the very wealthy. The Duke, it seems, has his own private, and very effective, army. You take the parcel from Jennings' outstretched hand. Your fingers feel clumsy, numb. The Viscount is practically vibrating with indignation. This is hardly the time or place for idle deliveries, he sniffs. But you are no longer listening to him. The world has narrowed to the small, fragrant package in your hands. You tear the paper. It is not a neat, composed posy like the others. This is a frantic, beautiful flurry of flowers, crammed together with an air of desperate haste. There is a cluster of pure white tulips, their petals still tightly closed, like clasped hands in prayer. Woven amongst them, a cascade of wild bluebells, their deep, vibrant violet blue a shocking splash of color. Their combined scent is clean, green, and wild, like a forest floor after a spring rain, and it cuts through the heavy, cloying perfume of your mother's roses. You don't need the book. You don't need to retreat to the library to decipher this. The message is as clear and bright as the colors in your hands. A quirky tidbit of floral history, white tulips were, for a time, a symbol of worthlessness after the Dutch tulip mania bubble burst in the 17th century. But in the language of flowers, their meaning was reborn, becoming a powerful and unambiguous symbol for forgiveness, a plea to be seen as worthy again. And the bluebells. Oh, the bluebells. Their folklore is ancient, tied to the phi and to the concept of truth. Their name in the silent alphabet is simple, powerful, and absolute. Bluebell, constancy, unwavering loyalty, everlasting love. This is not an apology for a clumsy dance. This is an apology for something far greater. It is an apology for his silence, for his absence, for letting the loud, brash Viscount corner you in this garden. He is begging forgiveness for not being the one to stand here, for not having the words to say what the Viscount has just said. And with the bluebells, he is screaming, silently, that his feelings are not a fleeting hope, but a constant, unwavering truth. He is not a fantasy, he is real, and he is fighting for you. You look up from the flowers, and the world rushes back in. The Viscount is staring at you, his face florid with anger. The gilded cage he offered you a moment ago now seems like a cheap, flimsy thing. It is not real security. It is a prison of sensibility. The Duke's world, a world of quiet understanding, of shared secrets, of a love so profound it has to be spoken in the language of the earth itself, that is the real, solid thing. Historians still debate the emotional autonomy of women in this period, but in this moment, you feel a power that is entirely your own. The choice is not between two men, it is between two worlds, two languages, two futures. You turn to Lord Harrington. The words you were meant to say are gone, replaced by new ones, words that are calm and clear and entirely your own. My lord, you say, your voice steady, you do me a great honor, but I am afraid I must decline your most generous offer. For a second, he simply stares, his mouth slightly agape, disbelief wars with fury on his face. Decline, he sputters, as if the word itself is a foreign concept. You are declining me. The insult is so profound, so public, he seems to swell with it. He glances from your face to the wild, beautiful flowers in your hand, and though he does not understand their meaning, he understands they are the cause of his humiliation. He gives a short, ugly laugh. I see, you prefer your messages from the gutter. Very well, I wish you joy of your weeds. He turns on his heel, his boots crunching angrily on the gravel, and storms back toward the house, man whose entire world has been upended by a handful of tulips and bluebells. You are left standing in the garden, the scent of roses forgotten. They are now filled only with the promise of forgiveness and constancy. The immediate aftermath of your refusal is a storm. Lord Harrington does not go quietly. He storms out of the garden, past a stunned Jennings in the hall, and leaves your house with the force of a slammed door that seems to shake the entire foundation of your social standing. Your mother, who witnessed the entire debacle from the drawing-room window, descends upon you not with the fury of a tempest, but with the cold, silent, and infinitely more terrifying pressure of a glacier. There is no shouting. There are only questions, delivered in a voice of chilling disappointment. Do you have any idea what you have just done? She asks, her voice barely a whisper. You have thrown away a lifetime of security. You have made an enemy of a powerful man. You have made us a laughingstock. The days that follow are a lesson in the subtle, brutal mechanics of social punishment. Invitations that were once a daily occurrence dry up completely. When you attend a planned musicale with your mother, a chill follows you through the room. Whispers erupt behind fans. Ladies who once greeted you with warm smiles now offer only a curt, cool nod. You have become a curiosity, a cautionary tale, the foolish girl who refused a viscount for no discernible reason. A mainstream historical fact is that a woman's reputation in the Regency era was her most valuable currency. A public, inexplicable act like refusing a perfectly good proposal could be seen as a sign of instability or a hidden scandal, effectively ruining her marriage prospects entirely. You find your only refuge in the long, quiet walks you begin to take in the late afternoons. You leave the oppressive silence of your house and seek the anonymous, wrestling silence of Hyde Park. A few days after the disastrous proposal, you find yourself walking along the edge of the Serpentine. The heat of the day has broken, and a cool, gentle breeze is skimming across the water. The promenade hour is over, the parade of carriages has thinned, and the park has settled into a state of peaceful twilight. You are alone, blessedly alone, with only the quacking of the ducks for company. You are watching a small flotilla of them paddle aimlessly near the bank when you sense, rather than see, a presence nearby. You look up, and your heart gives a single, powerful thud that seems to echo in the sudden stillness. It is him. Duke Alistair is standing perhaps 20 paces away, near a weeping willow whose branches trail in the water. He is not looking at you. He is looking at the same group of ducks, a small, half-empty bag of breadcrumbs in his hand. He is, as always, a figure of profound quiet. He must have felt your gaze, because he slowly turns his head. His eyes meet yours. There is no one else nearby. The few remaining strollers are distant figures, lost in their own worlds. There is no chaperone, no hostess, no viscount to interrupt. There is only the soft evening light, the gentle lapping of the water, and the vast, silent space between you. Historians debate whether these public accidental meetings were truly spontaneous or meticulously, if discreetly, arranged by the parties involved. In this moment, it feels like an act of pure, unadulterated fate. The panic that you saw in his eyes at the ball is gone. The desperate hope of his floral messages is gone. What is left is a look of such profound, quiet gratitude that it takes your breath away. He does not move closer. To do so would be a breach of etiquette, a risk to your already tattered reputation. He simply holds your gaze. And in that shared look, an entire conversation takes place. His eyes, clear and steady, say, "I know what you did. I know what it cost you, thank you." Your own gaze, soft and unwavering, replies, "There was no other choice. It was the only real thing to do." A quirky tidbit of the park's history is the existence of the official chairmen, who would rent out iron chairs for a penny or two, allowing people to sit and watch the world go by. One such man, his chairs all stacked for the evening, shuffles past in the distance, entirely oblivious to the silent, momentous treaty being signed by the water's edge. Alistair gives you a small, almost imperceptible nod. It is not a formal bow, but a simple, profound acknowledgement of you, of your courage, of this secret they share. And you feel the corners of your mouth lift into the first genuine and forced smile you have felt in days. It is a small, private thing, meant only for him. He mirrors it, a hesitant, yet incredibly beautiful smile that transforms his entire face, chasing away the last of the shadows of the withering Duke. The moment cannot last. A carriage rumbles past on the nearby lane, a sharp reminder of the world and its rules. He gives you one last look, a promise of constancy that needs no bluebells to articulate it. He then offers a slight, more formal bow from his distant position, turns, and walks away, melting into the deepening shadows of the trees. You incline your head and return to his retreating back, then turn and continue your own walk in the opposite direction. No words were spoken. None were needed. The silence was not empty, it was full. The silent meeting in the park is a small, warm coal that you cup in your hands during the cold days that follow. The social ostracism continues, a quiet, relentless pressure. Your mother's disappointment has settled into a permanent weather system in your home, a state of low atmospheric pressure that makes the air feel heavy and hard to breathe. The Duke's silent acknowledgement was a promise, but it was not a plan. The future remains a vast, featureless landscape, and you have no map. You begin to wonder if that single, shared smile by the Serpentine was the final word in your strange, silent story, a beautiful, but ultimately tragic, ending. You are in the library, not reading, but simply staring out the window at a grey, drizzling London sky, when the commotion begins. It starts as a raised voice in the street, then the sound of the front door opening, and then the unmistakable, flustered tones of Jennings trying to manage a situation that is clearly beyond his usual purview. Your mother emerges from the drawing room, her face set in lines of inquiry. You both arrive in the entrance hall at the same moment, and you stop, frozen in place by the sight before you. The doorway is entirely blocked by a floral arrangement so vast, so overwhelmingly magnificent, that it seems less like a bouquet and more like a section of a royal garden that has been recently, violently uprooted. It takes the footmen, their faces strained with effort, to maneuver it into the hall. Jennings directs them with the frantic energy of a field marshal, his usual glacial calm completely shattered. It is a tidal wave of flowers, a breathtaking, impossible creation of color and scent that immediately fills the entire space, its fragrance a rich, heady cloud of pure, unadulterated romance. This is not a secret. This is not a whisper. This is a proclamation, delivered with the subtlety of a cannon blast. At its heart are the roses, hundreds of them. They are the deepest, most luxurious shade of crimson, the color of wine and velvet. Their petals are just beginning to unfurl, their heads heavy and lush. A mainstream historical fact is that while many rose varieties existed, the deeply fragrant, dark red cultivars were still a relative luxury, requiring expert cultivation. An arrangement of this scale would have cost a fortune, the floral equivalent of a diamond necklace. Woven amongst the roses, a delicate, star-like counterpoint, are sprays of white myrtle. The tiny, fragrant blossoms provide a soft, gentle contrast to the passionate intensity of the roses, their glossy, dark green leaves forming a rich tapestry behind the blooms. And twining through the entire arrangement, a familiar and welcome sight, are long, trailing tendrils of dark green ivy, a silent callback to his promise of fidelity. Your mother, for the first time in weeks, looks utterly speechless. She stares at the floral monument, her mind clearly racing, calculating the cost, the social implication, the sheer, audacious power of the gesture. She does not need a special dictionary to understand this. Every woman in England knows the meaning of red roses. But you have your dictionary. You retreat to the library, your heart hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. You don't need to look up the roses. Their meaning is universal, the first word in the language of love. But you turn to the letter M with trembling fingers, searching for the delicate white flower that softens the rose's passionate declaration. Myrtled love in absence, a symbol of marriage, do not forget me. A symbol of marriage. A quirky tidbit of royal history is that Queen Victoria carried myrtle in her wedding bouquet, a cutting taken from a plant given to her by her grandmother. That single sprig began a tradition, and a cutting from Victoria's original bush has been included in every royal bridal bouquet since. Myrtle is not just love, it is the specific, hopeful, and sacred love that leads to a wedding. The Duke has sent you a proposal. He has taken the most profound question a person can ask and translated it into the only language he knows he can speak without faltering. He has built it from the foundation of his constancy the ivy, added the unwavering declaration of his love the roses, and finished it with the explicit, hopeful question of marriage the myrtle. He has done it publicly, magnificently, and a way that your mother, the neighbors, and the whole of gossiping London cannot possibly ignore. He has stepped out of the shadows, not with a clumsy, spoken declaration, but with a silent, fragrant roar. You look up from the little green book and gaze at the breathtaking arrangement, which is so large it dwarfs the furniture in the hall. It is an answer to your courage in the garden. It is a bridge built from his world of quiet solitude to yours. It is a future, offered not as a business transaction, but as a thing of wild, passionate, and deeply thoughtful beauty. The silence in your house is finally broken, replaced by the overwhelming, joyful scent of 1,000 red roses and a single, silent question. The grand proposal sits in your entrance hall, a fragrant, magnificent, and utterly undeniable fact. The silence it has shattered is not the comfortable quiet of the library, but the cold, disapproving silence of your mother. And she, a woman of formidable pragmatism, pivots with the speed and precision of a seasoned general. The foolish, reckless girl of yesterday is, this morning, the clever, prescient future Duchess of Wrentham. The Viscount Harrington and the social ruin you courted are utterly forgotten, erased from history as cleanly as a chalk drawing in the rain. Your mother is now a whirlwind of activity. She flits around the floral masterpiece, touching a rose petal here, adjusting a frond of ivy there, as if it were her own personal creation. We shall need a larger vase, she declares to no one in particular. In fact, we may need a bathtub. Her conversation is now a dizzying monologue about the Wrentham family jewels, the draftiness of ducal palaces, and the urgent need to consult her dressmaker. Her previous disappointment has been miraculously transmuted into triumphant strategic genius. I always knew you were a girl of deep and hidden sensibilities, she says, conveniently rewriting the narrative of the last few weeks. It's a performance of such breathtaking hypocrisy that it's almost admirable. Amidst this new, joyful chaos, you retreat. You go back to your sanctuary, the library, the little green book held in your hands. You close the door on the rising tide of your mother's plans and expectations, and you are once again wrapped in a familiar, comforting quiet. The air here is still tinged with the scent of the roses from the hall, a constant, sweet reminder of the question that hangs, unanswered, in the air. The Duke's grand, public gesture demands a reply. But you know, with absolute certainty, that your answer must be the opposite. It must be small, private, and exquisitely simple. It must be a single, perfect word. You sit in your worn burgundy chair and open the book for what you sense will be the last time. Your search is not long. You know what you are looking for, not a wildflower from a neglected garden path, but something elegant, cultivated, and pure. You find it under C. Camellia. A mainstream historical fact is that camellias, native to China and Japan, were a relatively recent and highly fashionable introduction to English gardens. They were exotic, expensive, and a symbol of refined taste, often grown in the very conservatories that men like the Duke used as their private sanctuaries. To send a camellia was a gesture of deliberate, sophisticated intent. The book lists several meanings by color, but your eyes are drawn to one in particular. Camellia white to perfected loveliness, adoration, you are adorable. It's a gentle, almost shy, declaration. But then you see the final, overarching meaning for the flower in general, a definition that makes your heart feel as if it is finally coming to rest after a long and turbulent journey. Camellia, my destiny is in your hands. There it is, your yes. It is a statement of absolute trust and gentle surrender. It is an acceptance not just of his proposal, but of his quiet nature, of the silent world you will build together. A quirky tidbit the book offers is that in its native East Asia, oil from the seeds of the camellia was prized for centuries as a treatment for hair, a quiet, practical secret of beauty. Much like the Duke's quiet, practical secrets of love. You know, from your botanical studies, that one of the London nurseries your father frequents has a fine collection of hothouse camellias. The final stage of your silent conversation is now a matter of logistics. You take a shilling and the last of your courage and slip out of the house while your mother is busy composing a gloating letter to her sister in Bath. You find the same street urchin, who now greets you with a knowing, gap-toothed grin. He has become the unofficial postman of your heart. You give him his instructions. He is to go to the nursery, purchase one single perfect, long-stemmed white camellia, and deliver it to Wrentham House. Historians still argue about the precise etiquette of accepting a marriage proposal, whether a verbal response delivered by a male relative was required, or if a written note was sufficient. A single flower, delivered by a street urchin, was most certainly not in any of the guidebooks. But it is the only way that makes sense. It is your language. You return to the library. You do not pace. You do not worry. You sit in your chair, the little green book closed on the table beside you, and you wait. You are surrounded by the scent of his grand question, and you have sent your quiet answer out into the bustling city. You picture the single, perfect white blossom arriving at his door. You imagine him taking it, seeing it, and understanding. You imagine the slow, beautiful smile you saw once before by the Serpentine, and you know, with a certainty that quiets every fear, that it will be on his face again. The story of your courtship is over, written in the ink of petals and the grammar of green stems. And the story of your life, a life of shared and peaceful silence, is just about to begin. As the story of the shy duke and the quiet librarian comes to its gentle close, allow your own mind to drift. Let the images of the flowers, the apologetic hyacinths, the hopeful snowdrops, the passionate roses, and the final, perfect camellia fade into a soft, warm haze. The frantic energy of the London season has passed, the anxieties and the whispers have all melted away, leaving only a sense of deep and peaceful understanding. There are no more messages to decipher, no more secret meanings to uncover. All that is left is a quiet certainty, a feeling of coming home. Imagine the comfort of a shared silence, of knowing you are understood without needing to speak a single word. Feel the tension in your shoulders and your jaw begin to release as you embrace that sense of peace. The story has found its happy, quiet ending, and now, so can you. Let the gentle rhythm of your own breathing be the only sound you need to notice. A slow, easy breath in, and a long, soft breath out. There is nothing else you need to do, nowhere else you need to be. You are safe, you are comfortable, and you are ready for a deep and restorative sleep. Let the last vestiges of the day fall away, like petals dropping from a flower, and allow yourself to drift into the quiet, peaceful garden of your own dreams.